Welcome to another edition of the Litigation Psychology Podcast, brought to you by Courtroom Sciences, Inc. And today you have double the hosts. With me, I got Bill Kanasky. Dr. Bill Kanasky, how are you?
Living the dream in Florida. My air conditioner broke today, so it's like 83 degrees in this room. Not good. Not a good start.
No, not a good start at all. So, well, this is gonna raise your temperature a little bit because I brought you on because Sean Murphy and I had a discussion a little while back about this topic, and I know you're very heated about this topic. We're talking safety. Safety is a priority. I just wanted to start off by kind of getting your thoughts around what we constantly see all the time about on websites and out in public and everywhere. Basically, safety is our top priority. Safety is our top priority. So what are your thoughts on safety as a top priority? And I know you have some on that as far as whether or not that's a smart approach.
Well, it's a horrible approach because it's not true. That's the problem. It's a real feel-good saying that the marketing departments have been throwing all over the place, but it's not true. Number one. Number two, priorities change depending upon circumstances. And so if you say it's the top priority, you're kind of setting yourself up for disaster during testimony because somebody's going to say, well, when is it not the top priority, right? So by definition, saying it's a priority is really a bad idea. It's not, and it's really not true. Think of any industry. The safest truck, right, is the one that's parked. The safest doctor is the one that doesn't have the scalpel in his or her hand. The safest medication is the one that's never given. So again, I think it's a marketing tool. They're used by several industries. They're not talking to the risk management or legal department. And the plaintiff's bar has been very, very wise to pick up on this and use it against defendants.
Yeah, I think you and I have had a conversation before. I mean, and this isn't just something that you and I are just talking about and having it being used. No. I mean, you've had situations, I know there's horror stories where you've had people call you in and then show you handbooks that say safety is a top priority and then say, Bill, help us. What can we do? Right?
Yeah. Unfortunately, that happens on a weekly basis. Let me read you such language from an actual operations manual. This is for a municipality, who I will not tell you who they are, but I'm going to read right from it. Safety is the first priority of the Highway Operations Division. Now, first priority is in bold and it's underlined. Okay.
Got it.
This gets better, Steve. Just hang in there. This includes the safety of the employees of the division performing routine or emergency roadway maintenance, but also the public using the county's roadway facilities, including motorists, pedestrians, bicyclists, and others. It is the policy of blank county to conduct its business in the safest possible manner consistent with the applicable law, policy, or rule. Safest possible manner is bold and underlined. So this is from a recent case in which several people were deposed on this language. Now you're stuck with the language. And so the only way out of this is to say, yes, that's what the manual says. You can't disagree with that. But what does it mean? And that's where it comes to circumstances, being reasonable, doing what's appropriate. So our witnesses actually did really well with that. I mean, we had to put them through days and days of exhaustive training. But the funny part about this story is, in the middle of day one, I pretty much stood up in the room and I'm surrounded by all these employees. And I pretty much said, whoever wrote this should be shot in the face. Like 3 times, like who in the world, like which one of you guys at this table authored this? And the one raised his hand. I'm like, it's you? He's like, no, we hired an outside safety consulting firm and they came up with this language because that's what they do. So they didn't even come up with this. They hired an outside vendor to come in, author all of these safety policies and procedures. And this firm obviously was not thinking about litigation when they came up with that language, and now they're stuck with it.
Yeah, and like you said, I mean, it doesn't really take a very savvy plaintiff attorney to just jam that down your throat, right? I mean, you could take a first year associate and walk that up and present it in a deposition, and then you're screwed.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
I think, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, it's easy. It's shooting fish in a barrel, and I think it's really 100% beatable. I mean, you can change all of this, but you really have to take a look internally. Our good friend Carlos Rincon, out of defense attorney, trucking attorney out of El Paso, Texas, he said he is now being hired by trucking companies to come in to just review their internal documents to say, hey, if you were a plaintiff attorney, where would you attack this and what do we need to change? So I think we need a little bit more of that, prior to litigation, because once litigation starts, it's pretty much over.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I think one of the other things that's interesting too, and I've talked about this before, I've written about this before, is that, the idea that just because, if you say that safety is one of your top priorities, everyone always has a panic attack and just flips out, because the thought is that if safety is just one of your top priorities, that somehow you're saying that safety is not a priority at all. And I think you and I would agree with that. Couldn't even be farther from the truth. And I think one of the difficult parts that we have when we train witnesses is to get them to understand this concept of safety as a priority does not necessarily mean that safety is not, or safety being a top priority doesn't necessarily mean it's not a priority at all, right? It's not this all or none.
Yeah, I don't like the word priority. So what we're training witnesses to do, and when we consult with companies to choose their language, safety can be a goal. Okay, safety can be an important value of the comfort, because it's kind of intertwined into many things, and that's the truth. I mean, that's just a matter of the fact, and it doesn't sound quite as sexy to say, hey, safeties are. I mean, imagine if you walked into a hospital system, right, and above the lobby in big letters that says, safety is our goal, or or providing reasonable care is our goal. I mean, who the hell is going to go to that hospital? That looks terrible. But that's really what's going on here. It really comes down to what the legal standard is doing what's reasonable and appropriate given the circumstances. Now, you can't put that on a banner, on a billboard, in a commercial. You can't do that. But I have seen a lot of trucks on the highway that are adopting the safety is my goal language, and I think that's really important, because it also implies there are other things going on. A truck driver can't control other drivers' behavior, right? A physician or a nurse can't necessarily control their patient's conduct regarding adhering to a medical advice. So is safety important? Absolutely. Is it a goal? Absolutely. Is it one of the company's core values? Sure. Is it the top priority? No, it's not. And it never has been. It's not in any industry. I was sitting on a Southwest Airlines flight and the flight attendant, I sit in the exit row, always sit in the exit row. I'm a big guy. And they were saying something like during the instruction, your safety is our top priority. And like halfway during the flight, I got up to use the restroom and I walked back there. I go, you got to stop saying that to the flight attendant. And she's like, well, but it's true. Your safety's our top priority. I said, if it's your top priority, why is a frail 81-year-old woman who I had to lift her suitcase to put it why is she sitting in the exit row? That door weighs 37.5 pounds. I sit there every week. And she said, well, we can't, we don't want to offend people or get somebody mad at us. I go, well, then safety's not, my safety is obviously not your top priority, because if it was, you would actually enforce these, the things you have on the pamphlet and right in the front of the seat. Here are the qualifications to sit in this exit row. And rarely does someone meet them, right? but they don't say anything. And the reason why is they don't want a different type of lawsuit. They don't want to discriminate. But the fact of the matter is, airlines aren't putting safety as your top priority, and neither is anybody else. And that's causing a big problem in litigation.
I think that's a good point. You and I have talked to not harp on the airways too much, but that's another thing, right? If safety is a top priority, you still in this, still with the pandemic and still with that, everybody wouldn't be packed shoulder to shoulder, right? You had some companies that were putting spaces in between, but now we're back smushed together. Some people can't go to school and some people can't do things, but yeah, we can still be smashed together on an airplane, but safety is the top priority.
It's absolutely mind-boggling that, okay, so you walk, just so people know, because I'm back to traveling full time, and I have been for several months now. So you walk on this airplane. Well, the first thing that happens is you're at the gate, and they start yelling at you. The mask Nazis start yelling at you, like, "Don't take this damn mask off. And if you take it off, we're kicking you off the flight. We're going to take you back to the gate. We're going to land the plane prematurely." And they just scream at you, right? 15 minutes later, you can remove your mask to eat your stale peanuts and stale pretzels and sip your water. And I'm thinking, well, if that's not hypocrisy 101, I'm not sure what is. So again, it's a very feel-good term that a lot of industries use. And speaking of that, I did a little Google search, Steve. Let's go to the okay. Alls I put in the box, safety is our top priority. Let's see what comes up. First result, daycare center in New York. Second result, Benadryl.com. That's a nice one. Third one, healthcare center. Fourth one, let's see, another healthcare center. Let's see, fifth one, an energy company. Let's see, it's all over, Steve. Six, we have, looks like that's a travel company. I won't say their name. Seventh, another energy company. Look at that. Eighth, another clinic. Let's see, ninth, another clinic. Let's just keep going with this because this is pretty interesting. 10th, I'm running out of numbers here. An industrial company. Then we have another healthcare system, another healthcare system, another healthcare system. And here's an article. So it comes up 17th. Debating safety as a value versus safety as a priority. So I got to 17, right? And now you have a bunch of YouTube stuff from, again, more health organizations. I mean, this is really all over the map. And so the other way this stuff gets you in trouble and will be used in litigation is go to some of these companies' web pages and look under their mission statement. And it's pretty easy to figure out who's figured this out and has done it the right way and is not setting themselves up for disaster versus the ones saying safety, safety, safety. And they're raising the legal bar on themselves. And so what good plaintiff attorneys do is they print screen, right? They print out this language and then they bring it to the deposition. And so when the witness gets asked, well, hey, is safety the number one most important thing in the company? When the employee gives the correct answer, which is, well, safety is one of the many important things we consider at the company, the plaintiff attorney sticks that in their face and says, well, not so fast, my friend. This is what your website says. And at that point, it's a really bad situation to be in. So I think corporations, particularly the legal departments and corporations, I think need to communicate more effectively with the marketing folks. I think the marketing folks are getting corporations in big time trouble.
I thought it was a good point you brought up, and you took to number 17 till you got there about the debate about safety as a priority or safety as a value. And I wanted to talk to you about that because I have heard from some attorneys too that have started to, bring that up and start talking about that. And some of these websites, I'm looking at it now, the one where it says safety is not a priority, it's a value. Priorities change, values do not. And the implication on that is that it even raises safety to a higher level, and that not only is it just a priority, it permeates everything that your company does. So some attorneys are concerned that this is raising safety to even a higher level when you say safeties are value. What are your thoughts on that? I know you and I have talked about that before, about differentiating whether or not using that word, that term value, is really raising it above priority.
I don't think it does at all. A value is something that goes across many topics and many areas. I do think it's true that companies value safety in a number of ways, but they also value other things. I mean, I don't think you're going to find a physician in this country that walks into a room to evaluate a patient saying, okay, I'm here to make the safest decision possible because that's my priority. It's not. They use their judgment, they use their training, they use their experience to determine what's the most appropriate, right, thing to do in this situation, not what's safest. I mean, for crying out loud, I mean, our personal assistant just sat, her daughter just sat through 17 hours of labor and they finally called a C-section. Well, let's get a couple of things straight. Number one, 17 hours of labor is not safe, but they did it anyway. Okay. Number two, C-sections are not safe. Okay. But these things were clinical judgments made by the providers. And in the end, everything worked out. I mean, if the safest, I mean, right. I mean, if every determination, every decision was strictly made on safety, I mean, you would have to choose the most conservative action in every single circumstance. And that's just really not true in life or in any industry. It's almost, I mean, it's really an impossible burden if you put safety as the top priority, because it really does not allow people to do their jobs, and it's just really, really unrealistic. So I think that terminology, I'd like to see it go forever.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. So I think the take home message then really, right, is safety is not so nuanced that it's not so slim to the point where it has to be encompassed in one word or one idea. That really it's a lot more nuanced than that. There's a lot of aspects to it.
Yeah.
And that really the goal of A, the companies, and B, of witnesses when they're testifying, is to explain kind of, as I would like to say, the more of the shades of gray of safety versus this black or white notion that a lot of companies or a lot of plaintiff attorneys are trying to make companies agree to the facts, correct?
Yeah, and here's the trick that they're using, and they use it almost every time, is they try to manipulate the witness into identifying, okay, well, what are the company's top priorities? I would like a rank ordered list. And safety is number one on the list, right? And they go, yeah. What's number two? And they start rattling off all there is no list. Unless it's in your manual or it's on your website, there's a list. But there is no list. All of these things should be of equal value. And a lot of witnesses are scared, and attorneys are scared to admit this stuff. But is being effective, right? Providing an effective service, is that important? Yes. Is safety important? Absolutely. Is providing quality care or a quality product? Yeah, that's important too. Being timely in your delivery of a certain service, is that important? Absolutely. There's all these customer service. And here's the big one everybody's afraid of. Is it important to make a profit? Well, hell yes, it is. You're
Don't
running
say
a
that.
company.
No.
But you can't run away from that, right? And so what the witness needs to say is, all of those things are equally important to us. There is no list. And that's typically when plaintiff's counsel just loses their shit and starts to whine and moan and say, are you honestly going to tell the jury that? And the answer is yes, I am, because those are all important in this industry or to this company. That's the way that the effective testimony would come out. The ineffective way would be to come up with some priority list that's ranked, which is it's just untrue.
Yeah, no, like I said, the intellectually honest is to give the first response and not give the second one, right, of trying to rank priorities or even go down that road of trying to make it sound like you even try to rank priorities. I think those are all good points. Bill, thanks for your time. If anybody wants to get a hold of you, B. Kanasky at courtroomsciences.com. You can reach me, swood at courtroomsciences.com. Courtroomsciences.com has all of our podcasts and blogs and a lot of other information up there, and you can find a lot of good stuff. Bill, I appreciate it. I'm sure we'll see each other again on another podcast when it comes time to rant about another topic.
Absolutely. We got focus groups and mock trials coming up, so we'll be very busy on this safety topic. to our viewers. We're getting some great feedback, some more viewer and listener mail. So we got some really good stuff coming up. So
We got the 100th episode coming up, right? We got a big surprise coming up for that, keeping it all under
Absolutely.
wraps.
Absolutely.
All right. Thanks, Bill.
All right.
This has been another edition of the Litigation Psychology Podcast, brought to you by Courtroom Sciences, Inc.